Hello, and welcome to the 8th installment of my knitting podcast. If you're new here, my name is Claire, and I really like to make silly little things and talk about it on the internet. So let's get right into it and talk about what I made in the past 6-ish weeks, maybe 8 weeks, since my last podcast episode. I'm going to talk about my finished objects first, as one generally does on a knitting podcast. The first finished object that I have is also what I'm wearing, which is my cardigan number 8 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. I used Rybka Knight Pure Tweed in the color Scottish Borders Multicolor, which is kind of a beige tweed with colorful specks in it, which I love. I love these bright, colorful tweeds. And then I held that with Alpaca 1 by Isagear in the color 61, which is a pinkish, muted pinkish color, and together they made this beautiful fabric. I love it. The camera's really bad at picking it up, so you probably won't be able to see it the way it actually looks in real life, but I've tried so many things, I cannot get the camera to pick up the color the right way. I would say it's a pinkish beigey color, and I absolutely love it. The buttons that I used are the bling buttons by PetiteKnit. I originally got these about a year ago for my Jenny jacket, but they didn't work out for that. So they just lied around in my closet for forever, and I finally found a good use for them. I think it's kind of fun because I feel like it's a little bit of a style clash between, you know, this rustic, really oversized, boxy cardigan, and then these pretty feminine or like more glam buttons, but I think it's really fun. So I really like it, and these sparkle so pretty in the light. I absolutely adore them. I really love both the look and the feel of this. It is a little bit more rustic, but blocking made this fabric super nice. I'm guessing it's the alpaca mostly that bloomed really nice, and it feels not super soft, but just really cozy now. Now, as for the knitting process, it was pretty simple and straightforward. I just knit this pretty much exactly to pattern. Other than that, I'm not going to go into any details because I did film an entire vlog for this. I haven't edited it yet, so it is not on my channel yet, but if you're interested in the entire process of making this, do keep an eye out for that video. It will come in the next couple of weeks. Moving on to my second and third FO, I made 2 Rybka pouches. So I have these 2 cute little Rybka pouches. This is the Rybka pouch pattern by Ratansiewicz, also known as Sofia Ratansiewicz, and it's just this really cute little pouch, as the name suggests. I made these using various scrap yarns, so I'm not going to go into detail about it, but if you're curious, I will link my Ravelry page for these projects down below, and you can check that out. I think these are really cute. I made one for my AirPods, and then the other one that I just showed you is for my lipstick. I modified these a little bit because usually you're supposed to use this I-cord to hang them onto your bag or whatever, but I didn't really like the look of that, so what I decided to do instead is get these little keychains. So I have one with a hook, carabiner, I don't know what they're called, like this little thing, and then the other one is made with just a keychain with a key ring, and I didn't sew the top part closed entirely. Instead, I only sewed it up halfway, and then I pulled the I-cord through the chain. So this is easily removable. This is not completely sewn in or anything. I can just take out the I-cord and take this out as well if I choose to do that. And I find it really works well, and I think it just looks a little bit nicer, especially because I think having this little tie looks really cute. So that's all finished objects that I have to share with you today. Jumping right into my whips. Which whip shall I start with? Since my last podcast, I worked on kind of 3.5 whips, so I'm only going to talk about those. The others, like my hibernating whips, I do have a couple, but I won't talk about them because nothing has changed. So starting with, I think there's only one that I already was working on last time. So let's start with that one. And that is the Hollingbourne socks. If you remember last time, if you watched my last episode, you might remember that this was a little bit of a tragedy. So I started knitting the first sock. Everything went fine. It's the first time that I'm doing all over colorwork socks. Everything was going well, and then for the foot part, my gauge was way too large. Suddenly it just got way larger than before, which made my foot way too long. So then I took a break and I finally started the second sock, and my gauge was fine again. So here I have the same gauge as on the other leg. Everything is perfect, everything was going well, and then I did the heel. Now, this is the first time that I'm doing a short row heel, I want to say this is. I'm actually not even entirely sure. So because it's the first time that I'm doing this, naturally I just follow the written instructions to a T, reading them really carefully and just going step by step. And for some reason, it worked out really well on the first sock, and then on the second sock, I'm gonna come closer so you can see, I just got these holes. I don't know if I just knit looser than the first time or if I twisted things, and because that's what it kind of looks like to me. Like maybe I picked up the stitches in the wrong part or I twisted something. I don't know, but it looks bad. And so I stopped knitting on them again. I gave up a second time and now they're hibernating again because I did not want to redo the heel. Now, I do still want to finish these. I swear to God, I will finish these at some point. It's just not now. It might take me a couple of months. I think I'm just gonna have to sit down at some point and just take the half hour or hour to frog this heel and redo it, just going exactly to pattern again, or maybe even watching a video to make sure that I'm not twisting anything, because I swear to God, if I have to redo this a third time, I will cry. Or if this happens again, I'm just gonna leave it, honestly. I'm a little bit frustrated with this project, so it might hibernate for another while because I have more fun things that I can work on. So let's get talking about the more fun things. The first more fun thing that I have to talk about is actually something very exciting, which is my first ever test knit. So this is the Literkowy scarf by Rat and Sea Witch again. So she's the same designer as the Rybka pouches, and I'm testing her new scarf pattern. This is currently still in testing, so you can't get this pattern yet, but it should be out sometime in December, I'm guessing. So this is what it looks like so far. The idea of this pattern is that there are charts for every single character of the alphabet, and then you can make your own word or sentence that you want to put on your scarf. So you can customize what your scarf says, which is really fun. I don't know if you could just read it because it is not blocked yet, so it's a little bit difficult to read, but it says Cozy Girl Wind. Because I'm still missing the last two letters, but it's gonna say Cozy Girl Winter, the opposite of Hot Girl Summer. And I will add tassels because she does also have instructions on how to make tassels. I'm really excited about this. I think I should be able to finish this maybe in the next week or so. This is a great on-the-go project I have found. I usually knit on this on the bus and during class. I just sit in the back and knit on this, which is great. It has pretty short rows and it's relatively mindless but still engaging enough that you want to keep going because of the letters. It's like only 3 more rows and then I'm done with this letter, and then you're like, oh, I'm just gonna start the next one, and then before you know it, you've knit like for 3 hours. So it's really a fun knit, but still pretty simple because it's only knits and purls, so it is definitely beginner friendly. The yarn that I'm using is the Rybka Design Fashion Cottony, which is a, I think 90% cotton, 10% polyamide blend, and it feels really nice. So it does not feel like cotton at all. It is very soft. is also spun in a really interesting way. I think it's almost like chainette or something. So it has 200 meters per 50 grams, but you can still knit it up with 4mm needles. So it has a pretty good meterage for the weight, which is really nice. It's also super soft, so it stays light and soft. So yeah, especially for small little accessories like this, I do recommend it. The only mildly annoying thing is that you can't throw it in the wash even though it's cotton. I'm not entirely sure why. I don't really see a reason why you shouldn't be able to throw this in the laundry machine. But on the label it says to hand wash only, so I guess we're gonna stick to that. So that was my second whip. Moving on to my third whip, and kind of my last real whip. I have the, oh my god, it's a little bit messy, give me a second. All right, for my third and last whip, we have the Mist Sleeves by Garn Slikt. This doesn't look like much yet, but these will be a bolero or sleeves or cropped sweater, whatever you want to call it, with a little twist detail in the front and the back. So what I'm holding here is kind of the body part, and then it'll have sleeves here and here. This is knit holding 3 strands of mohair together, and I'm using Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair in the undyed colorway. I think this is a really nice color. I was thinking for a very long time about which of their white colors to get, and they do have an Instagram post comparing all their whites because they have so many shades of white and off-white, and I'm really happy with this. I think this is kind of a medium, like it's not super yellow, but it's also not super white and not super pink. It's kind of just in the middle of all of their whites, and I'm really happy with this choice. Now, I didn't hit gauge for this one. It suggests to use 7mm needles, and I did try that. I made a swatch and I was a little bit above gauge. So I did start knitting with the 7mm needles, but I didn't really like the fabric. It looked very uneven because it was too loose, so I decided to size down. So now I'm knitting this on 6mm needles, which is kind of a little bit too small of a gauge, so I guess 6.5 would be perfect, but because I don't have 6.5 needles, I'm just using my 6 mils, because I do prefer this slightly tighter fabric. It just looks nicer in my opinion. So the pattern gauge is 18 rows and 14 stitches, and I'm at 15 stitches and 20 rows, so it's not too bad. And in most parts she tells you to knit to a certain length anyway, so I find that it doesn't really make a difference. I'm done with all the complicated part. I'm putting that in quotes because I would say this is a pretty simple pattern. It's mostly just stockinette. It's quite mindless. For the sleeves, I'm also expecting it to be pretty mindless. It's just knitting stockinette in the round. So yeah, I reckon this should be a very quick project. This was like maybe 3 hours of work because it is on very large needles and it's only sleeves. You don't have to knit an entire body, so this should be pretty quick. I think this is really nice. I would say this is probably one of my most like elegant knits and overall clothes that I own, and I'm really excited to finish this. I think this would be super cute to wear over a spaghetti strap dress, or maybe a top if you want to dress it down a little bit more. So I'm super excited for this. Also, I did Judy's Magic cast on for the first time, and it's so nice. I don't think I'm ever going to use provisional cast on again, because I hate doing provisional cast on. I usually do it with the crochet version, and somehow I never manage to make it work. I can never really pull the crochet part out. It just always gets stuck. So I hate doing provisional cast on. It also takes forever for me to crochet that on. I don't know why. But Judy's Magic cast on is so nice. You just twist it and it's so quick. So I will definitely be using that again. It's always fun to learn new things like this. So that's all I have to say about this project. Now I only have one more whip to talk about, and that isn't actually even a full whip yet, but I'll show you anyway. So the last thing I have to talk about is this. which is a swatch for the Hanstholm sweater by PetiteKnit. I made this using drops Lima in the color Brick Red on 4mm needles, and so far I'm above gauge again. So I have 20 stitches instead of 21 stitches, but I like the fabric, so I think I'm gonna stick to it. I recently realized how little time we have left until Christmas. I just checked earlier and it's only 7.5 weeks away. It's not even 8 weeks away. It's not even 2 months away. How did that happen? It is November. Where did the time go? Anyway, I'm getting off track. I originally wanted to get this finished either by his birthday, which is in November, that's not happening, or by Christmas, just because that's like kind of the only times I'm gonna see him. So yeah, I'm planning on getting this ready until Christmas, which means I need to start this. That's why I swatched. Not gonna lie, I'm a little bit worried about the gauge, but there's just no way I'm gonna knit that on 3.5mm. So I'm just praying. To be fair, usually when I knit in the round, I knit a little bit tighter. I know you're supposed to swatch in the round if you're gonna knit in the round, but I didn't want to do that. So I'm expecting to knit a little bit tighter on the actual sweater than on this. And worst case, I guess it's just gonna be like a couple of centimeters too large. Oh well. Cause yeah, no way am I knitting that on 3.5mm. Other than that, I feel like the yarn is a little bit less soft than the other colorways of Lima that I've tried, which might be the way it's dyed. Sometimes different colorways get dyed differently, so they feel different, or maybe it's just another batch of wool that is a little bit less soft. But I am hoping it's going to soften up more after properly washing it a couple of times, because it's a little bit scratchier than the other ones I have. That's all I have to say about this for now. I should really start on this, but I didn't want to cast on too many projects because I already have so many hibernating whips. School started back up last month and I also got a job, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But because of that, I've just been very busy and I haven't had as much time to knit. It's nice. I'm having fun. I'm hanging out with friends. School is all right this semester and work is fun too. I just don't have a lot of time to knit and so many things that I want to knit, especially for like fall and winter. And I'm slowly starting to realize that that's just not going to happen, that I simply won't be able to get to all the projects that I wanted to get to. And I'm a little sad about it, but that's all right. I mean, I always have next winter, right? Those were all my whips that I've been working on. So moving into acquisitions, as I just mentioned, I just got a new job last month. It's only a part-time job, but I still felt like treating myself because I'm earning money now, so I can treat myself, right? It's not the best mindset, but I thought for my first month of working, I would get something nice. And incidentally, Knitting for Olive was running a sale, which if you've been on the internet and in the yarn space, you might know that Knitting for Olive never has sales ever. But they did actually have a 10% off sale for fall, and I couldn't resist. What I got were 7 balls of the aforementioned Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair in the undyed colorway that I got for the mist sleeves that you just saw. And then I also got 4 balls of the soft silk mohair and the merino each in unicorn purple, because I really wanted to try out this colorway. I feel like I always buy the same colors of yarn and I wanted to try out something new. So I really wanted to try out a lavender purplish color. And this unicorn purple I fell in love with like a year ago or something when I saw it the first time, but I never got it because Knitting for Olive is really expensive. So I finally decided to get 4 balls of each of these. I'm planning on making a vest or slipover or whatever you want to call that out of this. Now the reason I got 4 balls of each, which is I would say quite a bit for a slipover, is that I don't have a specific pattern in mind yet, and I am considering making something with cables, so that eats quite a lot of yarn. And I also wanted to have the option to make something pretty oversized, so I did kind of get a little bit more than I will probably need, but I figured if I have some left over, I can just make a scrunchie or a scarf in this color. So yeah, that is the second thing that I bought from Knitting for Olive. Now, this too, I would love to cast on right away, but considering I don't have that much time and I should get knitting my brother's sweater first, I reckon I will only get to this maybe in January, February, definitely sometime next year, because I have so many other whips that I should finish first and stuff like that. So while I am super excited to work with this and I would like to cast it on right now, it's just not that smart to overwhelm myself with like 10 different whips and then nothing gets done ever. So I'm leaving this for some other day. Lastly, I kind of wanted to talk about media I've been consuming. So I know some other podcasters do this as well, and I also kind of tried to start this last time, but I would like to just talk about some of the things that I've been watching and reading and listening to in the past weeks. So if you're only interested in knitting related things, this kind of marks the end of the portion of this video that you're interested in. So in that case, thank you so much for spending time with me, and I'll see you next time. In case you are interested in media, please keep watching. So for books, I finally finished reading Stay True by Huo Shu, which is a memoir about his experience growing up as an Asian American, and also kind of about dealing with his friend's death in college. So I would say the first 2/3 of this book are set before his friend's death, and I could relate to a lot of those thoughts. So I'm neither Asian nor American nor an immigrant, but the first 2/3 just deal a lot with identity and kind of growing up and figuring out who you are, which definitely, obviously his growing up was influenced by being Asian American, but a lot of the things he talks about I think still apply to other people as well. I think they just apply to growing up and figuring out who you are in general. So I really liked that part and could relate to it a lot. Then the latter part after his friend's death, where he deals a lot with grief, it was a little bit more difficult to understand. I felt like the writing style changed a little bit and became a little bit more messy and harder for me to read. Now, keep in mind, English is not my first language. Usually I don't have an issue with reading English books, but sometimes when it's like a certain style, it does kind of impact my reading, I think. So yeah, the first 2/3 I really liked, and then the last third, it was just very difficult to get through for me. I think that was also in part due to the fact that I just couldn't relate to it as much, because luckily, thankfully, none of my friends have ever passed away, especially not in a violent manner as did his friend. So it was definitely interesting reading about his experience and how he felt and how much it impacted him. It was just a little bit difficult to get through, also just linguistically, really. The second book that I'm currently reading is The Secret History by Donna Tartt, a dark academia classic, I would say, which I never actually read though. So I thought this fall season, what better thing to read than The Secret History? So far, I like it. It's just kind of making me lose faith in humanity. Yeah, I'm about 1/3 of the way through. I feel like it's only gonna get worse, so we'll see where this goes. And finally, the third book that I'm currently reading is What I'd Rather Not Think About by Jente Postuma, which was on the shortlist of the International Booker Prize this year. This is, again, a memoir of a woman who deals with her twin brother's suicide, and I'm about 1/3 of the way through, and I really like it. It's written in very short segments, so it's only ever like 1 or 2 pages long, which I think makes it really fast-paced. It's definitely an interesting style to write in, and I enjoy it quite a lot. It again just deals with growing up, figuring out who you are, especially in facing grief and like the loss of someone very dear to you. So I think this is also really interesting. I'm interested to see how it goes on. Lastly, I've been watching How to Get Away with Murder, which I've been binging because it's just so addicting to watch that, but also once again, it's making me lose my faith in humanity. Like the way that they all just murder people and cheat on each other and just are horrible people in general truly makes me lose faith in humanity. But I also cannot stop watching. So that's good, maybe. I guess it's a good show. It's keeping me engaged. Alright, so that was a little bit of a jumbled mess. I'm not used to putting my thoughts into words for books and like movies like this. This marks the end of everything that I wanted to talk about today. So as always, if you watched till here, thank you so much for spending time with me. I hope you're having a great day or evening or whatever time of day it is where you're at right now. Let me know in the comments what you're working on right now, and if you are making any Christmas gift knits. Have you started already? Are you on a time crunch like I am? How's it going? Let me know down below. Also, remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and want to see more. And other than that, I hope to see you again next week. Bye!